Okay, so the only one is Scott, and I need to call his cell phone.
Okay, we are back and I take it we're in open session, Joe. Does anybody have any further questions for Randy, Stacy, or Mark on the audit? Stacy, if you were saying something, we missed you.
Yeah, it was delayed. Thanks, Randy, for coming today. And I don't have any other questions.
Anybody else got anything? Okay, thanks, Randy.
All right, thank you all. Y'all have a good day.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
All
you
right.
too. Bye.
I think we've got everybody back, don't we?
No, we're waiting for Scott. I just called him, and Rob should be calling, or Rob should be getting back on here shortly. And then
Okay.
I think we got everybody.
There's Rob.
Perfect.
Jessica's not back.
Right.
Oh, I didn't call Jessica. Hold on, I'll get Jessica. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna walk over to Rob.
I texted her too, so.
Hey, Stacy, I didn't want to bring it up when we go over bills, but it looks like the coding on the payments to the IRS said federal income tax instead of payroll tax. We're just wondering why. And we're obviously that's what it is, but I had raised the question with Randy.
You had before, yeah.
Okay.
I'll follow up with our payroll tax person to get that description changed.
Okay.
It's payroll withholding.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And I asked Randy, I
Yep.
said, do we have some tax liability? He said, no, it's probably just the
Payroll
coding.
tax, yeah. I'll call her right now.
Yeah, we've had the chance to review the audit and speak with the auditor. Somebody would like to make a motion that we accept the
I'll make
audit
a-
as written. Thanks, Justin.
I have a question though. Can we make a motion since I didn't see it officially on the agenda? But just wanted
I
to
think
make sure.
we'll just have to ratify it next month, correct?
Yep.
Yes,
So I'll make a motion to,
it was in addition to
as
the agenda.
presented. Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. We have a second. We have a second by Dick. Any further discussion on the audit? Okay, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Mark, did you have anything else for discussion action items?
No,
Okay, it looks like we're down to engineering report. Scott.
Okay, you have my report. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Scott?
Thanks for looking in on those, looking into the trip savers. I like it.
You're welcome. Don and I are working on that together.
Yes, one quick question. Between operations and your department, are we still continuing to do some make ready for in the event that we start a fiber backbone project?
Yes.
Any other questions for Scott? Well, looks like you're off the hook, Scott.
Jeff, Carl, I've got one. I guess I'll bring it up now. I was going to bring it up later, but then sorry about that. But have you reassessed our fiber design from the information that we received last month about our design being faulty?
I believe Joe Palmer looked into that, and his conversations with the presenter from the last meeting was that the ADSS fiber is not sufficient to use for their design. And so it will require a redesign using different fiber.
and Carl, they did provide us with a design for the entire system. if we are so inclined to move forward with them.
Okay, thank you.
And just for clarity, would anybody agree with me that nobody said our system was faulty, just didn't work for their plan?
It's a type of fiber. They want a strand and lash, and the system is designed with a non-conductive dielectric fiber.
Right. So as designed, it's not faulty, especially if used right.
Yeah, if we use it the way that we originally designed it, then it works. If we want to move forward with the way that they would like to do it to create fiber to the home, it does not work.
Again, for their design of fiber.
Right.
Right. Thanks. Just want to clarify.
Sorry, Dave, I had my choice of words and I apologize.
No worries. Just wanted to make sure it was clear.
Okay. Mr. Finn, looks like you're up.
So I've attached my report. Any questions on that report? No bird or raccoon questions at all?
You guys have been busy. Thank you. Same comment about the trip savers and yeah, and I'm glad you're looking into all the wildlife mitigation measures.
Yes.
I am curious, what are the kind of devices you can install that would prevent that?
So there's a flurry of different devices. It's just, the funny thing is I think that's our first raccoon that we've actually encountered in many, many years. You can nod your head, Scott, if I'm accurate with saying that. So that hasn't been an issue in the past, but there's lots of different devices that we can actually put on the bushings and the all of the material. Of course, we do it in our design now out in the field, with all the bird wire and things of that nature. But this was an interesting case with that raccoon getting on the transformer. So,
well, when Don started, one of the things he asked me was if we had a lot of raccoon problems, and I told him no. And then about 2 weeks later, we had one.
Well, they just wanted to prove you wrong.
Yeah, Don gave me no end of crap about that.
Well, I would say that the fire will have changed how the wildlife behaves. And also you have a new transfer station in close proximity to one of our substations, which also may change animal behavior.
Yep. So we are looking into that.
Anything else for Don? Okay. Stacy.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. So I'll ask for any questions with my board report, but I do have 7 points just to discuss quickly. The first one is, like Mark said, we're planning to do capital credit retirement in May, right around 1.8 million back to our members. Have some things to discuss about the pro forma with Connexon, and I think we're going to do that in executive session. Spoke to Mountain View, DMEA, Yampa, La Plata, a couple other co-ops, looked in the RUS Smart Grid loan, talked to Bill Miller, our CPA, and Connexon a few times, and just have some things that we could discuss. With my financial presentation, Kristen, this is good timing with your class. I love it when one of you attends a class and can give me some things that come up or questions that come up or things that you want to know, because it's at times hard to give meaning to my numbers. I try and give things that I think that you all like to see: sales data, cost data, margins, things that would have meaning to you that you could just see in a quick KPIs that I put out there, the prior year comparative data that I give you. But if there's something else you want to know, you want to see monthly, let me know. And we can go through any questions in a minute. Let's see, the audits, talked about that already. Electric school bus update and financing. I wanted to add this to my report. So we did, Mountain Parks Educational Fund sent a check for $47,715 to West Grand. So after the cost of this school bus and the addition of a heater and some chains, we got the state grant money, which totaled $301,000. Sorry, Rob, if I'm taking away some of your updates here in your presentation, but they got $301,000 or will be getting it. They haven't gotten it yet from the state, $50,000 from Tri-State. So the difference for our portion, I had put $80,000 aside. Now I sent them a check for $47,700 for the bus. And then we paid for the charger in-house as well. And that's right about $15,000. So a total of $62,000 that the Mountain Parks Education Fund paid for that electric bus. So I wanted to share that with you all. And then
Can I just say that's pretty, for the dollars we spent from the educational trust, we got a lot of dollars from other sources to flow into our community. So that's pretty cool.
Really cool. I mean, thanks to Rob and Chris, that's $351,000 for the grant and for the Tri-State money. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Also, the seventh last point I have is CoBank is sharing the success. They're doing their annual matching of dollars for co-ops. In the past, we've done 5,000 and then they increased the amount to 7,500. Last year, we did 10,000 and supported Mountain Family Center tote program. So I did apply for that grant. Like Mark said, if the board decides they don't want to support something like that this year, I did have those monies in the budget for a $10,000 donation from Mountain Parks Electric. And I'm asking for matching funds, if the board's okay with it, for another 10,000 from CoBank. That's all I had in addition to my reports. Any questions on those or my report?
Well, and at this point, Stacy, we don't know whether or not CoBank's going to give us the money. So we won't ask for the board's approval until we know whether or not CoBank will give us the money, because they have for a couple of years, but they have limited funds. So they may not do it again this year for us.
Correct. I did get in right away with that application, like the second day it was open. They used to not use all the funds and now they're saying the funds are going quickly. So yeah, correct. We have not been granted those funds. Thanks, Mark.
Stacy, this is Carl. I received a letter here 2 days ago from you about the 1090. I sent my original 1090 and the fill out of all the hours and all that stuff. I assume you never received that?
I got it, Carl. I got it. I mailed that and then I received yours in the mail. So I have it.
Okay.
We passed.
Well, you're going to get another one, I guess. So.
Oh shoot. Sorry. I have everybody's 990 information that I needed for 2020. So thank you. I got the ones I hadn't received about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I just went ahead and mailed hard copies to everybody, but I've got them all back. So thanks.
Stacy, the new expense reports are going to do that for us. Is that correct? Hopefully.
The new expense reports, I'm trying to help you all keep track of your hours. If you like the setup of those, so we could go through it. So it's expanded in Excel. Now, those of you that don't have Excel and have an Apple product, to talk to Liz about it, you have to translate it in, save it, translate it back to Excel. If you have issues with that, Liz is an expert. Yeah, she said she doesn't have issues, but we can look at alternatives. But what that expense report is meant to do is to help have a place for you to put your hours, what you're doing for the month, and it summarizes all those hours. And then it gives me a sheet that I can send to the auditors or put on the sheet you need. Forget if you need to sign it or not. So I have that data here for you, and we'll keep a summary of that, and I can give that detail to the auditors as well.
Right. But normally we haven't put hours in on expense reports before, but now if we put in hours, it should be travel, preparation, and meeting for all these different areas, so that at the end of the year, it puts it all together. Hopefully.
Correct. It does.
Okay.
Yep. In our sheets. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So then just one thing that I wanted to clarify in the new report, so we're recording both compensated and uncompensated hours.
Yes,
At the very bottom where it sums up hours, those should only be the compensated hours, correct?
all hours, all hours. So the way I envisioned it, and I stole it from 2 other co-ops, so it's not my brainchild, I just saw they were doing it. It's all hours spent at the co-op on the hours. So the hour sheet's in the middle of I was trying to pull that up real quick, but the hour sheet or the hours are every hour you spent for co-op, compensated, non-compensated. And then up top, you put in your $500, your reimbursements. So the hours are all kept track for you for every hour you spend on co-op related hours as required by the 990.
Okay, maybe I'll follow up offline. I think I manually changed something so that I was not overcompensated. And I just want to make sure I'm entering it right.
Yeah, two different, mutually exclusive. Up top is the compensation. So whatever the compensation agreement is, if you attend a meeting for 8 hours and it's, the qualified reimbursable amounts are $500. Yeah, $250. Any other questions?
Yeah, one thing that in the 990 spreadsheet, it kind of broke it out by activity. So you could see like, okay, your independent study was, 70 hours for the year. Your board meetings were however many hours for the year. But in this, it doesn't look like it's gonna, because we are manually entering the activity description, it doesn't look like it's gonna follow that same format that we use on the 990 form. I don't know if that's gonna be an issue for the auditor or not.
I went through this sheet with the auditors, so they looked at this. I guess I could be missing something. I'll go back and look at the sheet, but I did send this to them. Can you see my screen? Do you all see that?
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So you have hours here, activity description, location, start date, end date, and then and you can go through to numerous days, numerous hours, and then up here is meant to be the fixed sum compensation, which is independent of the hours, but within the guidelines of, which in our case is hours.
And then just so we're all on the same page, you want to get these at the end of each month.
Correct. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. So this should be for the vision for this is for each month. So I think in the past, Liz, you had said after the board meeting, you submit them. So the preference would be at the end of the month so that your hours are kept by month is a preference.
So don't get them to me the last day of the month. How about the next week after the board meeting? That would be great.
Well, hold on a second, Jeff. You're saying, so one of the issues, so for example, we have an April meeting.
Right.
Today, it's April 8th. If we send this to you tomorrow, then we will not have included 21 days of hours that we do for the rest of April on this sheet. So we'd only have 9 days of hours of April. If we wait until the end of the month, all the hours are there, but then you have to deal with the board per diem.
Well, that's fine too. I didn't really think of that aspect, but does it matter that those hours, does it matter that they would just roll into May? Or does it? I mean, I don't know.
I guess if we keep it really specific here, the dates, I thought it just would, trying to simplify it, a whole month would be easier. This is April, this is May, so that would shift, like Liz is saying, when they send them to you, and then shift for 1 month when everybody gets paid. So to keep it simple, a little shifting now, I guess, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, does it matter that if those hours were shifted into the next month? I mean, does it matter to the auditor? It maybe, huh?
They look at hours for the year ultimately, and I think it's by month. So if the months are skewed a little, is that what you're saying? As long as we're reporting
Right.
12 months in the year? No, they're not super specific.
I mean, I'd rather have it accurate. It's just a matter of,
Timing.
if you want to cut those checks at the end of the month, then
Yeah, I
I'll
can't
need
cut them
it.
whenever.
I would just need those. I mean, everybody would have to have those hours to me on the 31st or the 30th.
If you get them the first, second, or third, we could cut them that first. We could just start a cycle of cutting the first week of the fall. We're cutting them now, first or second week. We do check runs every week, Thursday of every week. So
I think that, one of the issues is once we decide how to do it, it all needs to be consistent. for
Exactly.
You, Jeff, and Stacy. Otherwise, it's going to make it, if we all do it our own way, it's going to make a lot of headaches for you two. So,
Well,
just want to be clear.
Stacy, do you want to think about that and then maybe get back to the board? I mean, it could just be in an email how we wanted to submit this as far as timing. You want to give that some thought?
sure, I can make a recommendation of what's okay. Yeah, it looks like on here, we could do board meeting to board meeting up here if you want to keep track of hours that way. So, okay.
Yeah, and then like Liz said, it'd be consistent and we'd know exactly when, those things are supposed to be submitted and what the
Sounds good.
hours, what month.
I'll put a schedule together and then, okay. All right.
Okay, thank you.
I have just one quick question, and use Kristen, for example. So her training that she did last month, would she just go up and change the fixed sum compensation for the days she spent in the finance class? Or
Yes.
okay, and then
Yes.
where does she put a description of why her per diem is $1,500?
Usually it would be like equals 500 times 4 days. I guess, so you're asking for more description up here. 5 days. I could do a couple other columns here to have 500, 2 full days, and then it equals 1,000. Is that what you're asking, Justin?
Yeah, just so Jeff knows that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
I don't know.
I could do that.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah. Or
Justin
2.5.
it says MPEI board meeting, so if the fee is actually for things other than
Training.
Great.
Yeah.
Need a couple rows.
right.
of Training.
Yeah.
Sure.
The audit committee, or I mean, whatever you're doing that takes 4 hours or 2.
And
that's
a good idea.
feedback.
Good idea from Justin too. Can you add,
Yep.
just a description box to the right of that? And so I know what,
I could
like
do days.
yeah,
total
like
amount.
Kristen, like her example for
Yeah.
training, $1,000. Well, what is that? When was that?
Good point.
So
Sure.
if I
I'll add
had a
that.
box right there, then I would know.
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay. Yep. That's a good add. Great. Thanks, Justin. Anything else? It's meant to be user friendly and trying to get the Excel to do the addition for you. Sometimes the AP person here has things aren't added right, or so we run into some problems just trying to read things when it's handwritten. Just trying to make it easier for auditors, for us, for everybody, just to have it in the spreadsheet versus handwritten. And then automatically added. And if it's not automatically added, we could see where something went wrong. So if you could use this, that'd be great. And let me know if you have problems.
One last question. I know Liz and I think Kristen and myself all use Mac products, Apples. Is there a preferred a PDF, or we can read the Excel, but then if we don't have Excel, we can't resave it as that, I don't think.
I think you can't. Liz, were you able to do it? I think Liz was.
I was able to redo it. I just couldn't sign it with a electronic signature. It doesn't. So I just put my initials in there, and I think I put my initials in there as a signature, and then saved it as Excel and sent it off.
Yeah, PDF seems to be the best way I can read it too. And
PDF
that's,
does?
yeah, I think that's how
Okay, so if we did
everybody that's sending them is sending them, right? Liz,
As
you're doing, it's a
PDF.
PDF, right?
Yeah, I think I sent it both ways. I wasn't sure if Stacy wanted them back in an Excel format so that everything could be pulled together and added up. Like she can make
Yep.
different worksheets. She can have 12 worksheets for Liz and 12 for Jeff and tie it all into a single board Excel spreadsheet that would tally up all the board hours and whatnot.
That's what I have. That's the idea, but PDF is fine, you know, as well. I don't have a Mac, so I don't think I could send it off saved as maybe I can, an Apple file. PDF or Excel's the preference, number one. Second, PDF is great. Don't send me a Mac file. I won't be able to read it.
Some of us are still just handwriting them in there, and I guess I'm fine with that now until we can get it figured out. So maybe, you know, when we meet back in person, if you are having trouble, you know, working within this document on the computer, you could get with Stacy or Joe or somebody to make that happen. So it can all be consistent so we're not handwriting on them. But I think
Yeah,
until we can get in there and get hands on, I mean, that's just what we'll have to do.
Right. I had a question, Jeff. What happens, like, we had the audit committee meeting, it was like an hour and a half, an hour and 3/4. Then I wind up having a telephone conference with Acre or Care, you know, that's like an hour. You know, it's not appropriate to be charging the co-op, you know, a half a day for an hour meeting, but yet we have to keep track of it on here. How do we do that so it's not confusing to Stacy? I mean, you know, I have a meeting coming up this Friday. It's going to be an hour conference call. And then I've got this, and we're supposed to keep track of our hours. Normally, I wouldn't put that down on anything other than the 990 report. But if this is going to be used to come up with 990 and I put it on, I shouldn't get reimbursed for that. So how do we?
I think you can do that in activity information, Dick. You wouldn't enter it into the fixed sum compensation. You would enter it into activity information, correct, Stacy?
Yep, correct.
Okay, that answers my question. That's perfect. The way we've expanded it now, that'll work. I just wanted to make sure.
Stacy, so from this screen you're on, or maybe it's not this screen, how do you insert your signature? Because I cannot for the life of me figure it out.
Insert the signature here.
Yeah.
I just go like that and then do a font. I mean, right? That's the same thing as you signing it.
There is a way to do it though, too. I'll have to play around with it, but there is a way that you can insert a digital signature.
Yeah,
and it might even be under insert, Stacy.
Or if you
that's cool. This is what I was envisioning, but I mean, yeah, if you want to sign it.
Yeah, there is a way that they can sign it digitally. Can you click on insert once, see if it's on there? Yeah, it says, let's see. I'll have to mess with it. It might be under that signature line way over to the right, up top.
Oh, sorry, signature.
Yeah.
Add signature services. Okay, we'll figure it out and I'll email it out to everybody.
All right.
I'm not, find digital services.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions for Stacy on that before we move on? Okay.
Cool. I had one other thing just to show you. Warehouse guy, sorry, I guess this is number 8, just putting together a monthly update of what he's working on, looking at inventory accuracies with each of our different warehouses, graphing it, a few updates, opportunities. I'll just start adding this to my board report each month. Just wanted to share this with you. Any other questions? Report.
Okay, thanks, Stacy.
Yeah.
Joe,
Hi, so you have my submitted report, my written report. If there's any questions on that, I'll answer them now.
you're muted, Liz.
Are we doing the RC3 CREA program?
Yes, we have the self-assessment that we run periodically. I know they're doing that. CREA is also building that. It's kind of like the RESAP for cybersecurity, and that we're trying to take 21 to prepare to participate in 22. But yes, we do the RESAP self-assessment questionnaire. We'll probably do another one
Known
here
as
in the fall.
recap. They changed the S to C, so it's recap.
Right. But the RC3, we'll do another one probably in the fall after we finish some of the details with NISC and we've got a little better handle on all the implications that's created for us. But yes, we do.
Yeah, and I may have a question to ask in executive session. I'll probably just ask it to Mark. And I've been going to the cybersecurity lunch and learn sessions for the board that CREA is doing, and it's a good program. So
It's an eye opener.
it's helpful for as a board member, and they have some resources that I'll share with the rest of the directors.
Liz, you're gonna do that in executive? Do you want to do that in executive session? Did I hear that?
Oh yeah, there's a question I'd like to ask that I shouldn't ask in open session.
Okay. We'll add that. Anything else for Joe? Jessica?
Okay, don't really have anything to add in open session. You guys have the timeline for the employee housing solutions, the suggested timeline in the report. And I have a number of things I'd like to go over with you all in executive session. The unique benefit solutions, I'm not recommending any of those at this time. Just wanted to provide kind of a sampling to you all for that. So does anyone have any questions for me?
Anybody, any questions for Jessica? All right. Thanks, Jessica. Rob?
All right, I'll join the echo chamber. Does anybody have any questions for me on my report? I don't have anything to add in addition this month.
I do.
Okay.
I just wanted to thank you and Chris for all your work on the school bus in West Grand, and you know, for the dedication service as well. You guys did a great job getting the bus on the ground one and getting that dedication kicked off. So thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
And we got quite a bit of press. I think we got 5 print outlets and 2 TV outlets that covered the bus. So
yeah, our timing was
job.
good. Our timing was very good.
Yes.
Had we done this after several more schools had an electric bus, I don't know that we would have had that response. So it was very good, and everybody seemed really pleased with the event, the school district and Tri-State and CREA, and so I think it went well.
As they say, second's the best.
Yeah, and yeah, thanks everybody for working on that and getting dollars into our community at a one, whatever it was, 6 ratio. But also I want to say beyond the TV and the print, I even saw a photo of the bus charging on Reddit. It was at Colorado Mills. So, I mean, it spread well beyond what we think of traditional media. There's a lot of buzz.
Yeah. A lot of the media outreach, we coordinated with Tri-State. They had some contacts, so they were able to pull folks in. And just to acknowledge, Chris did do an awful lot of work on this, so hats off to Chris, and we appreciate all he does for us.
Okay, anybody got any more questions or any questions for Rob on his report?
Have you planned a follow-up with West Grand School District in the end of the school year, just to follow up, see how things are working?
I don't think we have one planned, but we're certainly, they're one of our key accounts, so we're certainly going to stay in touch. We may, Justin, see if we can get the bus to be sitting at our annual meeting. I don't know that we'll be able to give people rides in it, but we haven't yet asked the school district if they'd be willing to do that, but we're going to see if we can get it there at the Kremling Fairgrounds in June.
All right, thanks, Rob.
Yep, thank you.
Looks like we're into the dreaded bills for payment. Anybody got any questions? Bills for payment.
I only had one. There was a check to Excel Energy for gas line repair. I don't remember hearing about that. That may be me in our safety or near miss or accident report. I'm wondering if that was something like that, or we're just, we weren't the ones that caused it, but we had to deal with the repair.
We actually were the ones who caused it, and it was really frustrating. It was almost 2 years old.
Okay.
It had actually happened. So I was trying to reach out to several people at Excel to ask, why it took so long to get this bill out to us. And I didn't really get a very good answer. We knew that we had caused the dig in though. So.
Okay. Well,
I remembered, I get
short-term memory is why I didn't remember that one. That's okay.
Any other questions on the bills for payment? Okay. Mark, you want to keep pushing till noon and then take a lunch break, or what would work best for maybe
I
staff or
think
you?
that we can get through all the stuff up to the executive session by noon, hopefully. And then we can take a lunch break and come back at 1, because that's when Slopeside is supposed to be online to do their presentation.
Okay. Open board forum and associated reports. Liz, you got anything?
one thing I'll say about the cybersecurity forum I've been watching. Federated gave a presentation yesterday, and they said it's sort of like wildfire insurance. It's cybersecurity insurance is market's hardening, fewer players in it, and way more expensive because the claims are becoming bigger and bigger. And so that's just something we should consider. And a note to everyone, phishing is still the #1 way that folks are getting ransomware things. So pay attention. I mean, we make light of it, but really be careful. The other thing is in green power, Chris and I continue to work on trying to get the weatherization projects lined up. And so we're continuing having discussions about that with Energy Outreach Colorado and Northwest COG, and I'll be sending Mark something about our last discussion. But it's moving forward, and I think I reached out to Stacy, but we're not quite there yet. So anyway, you'll hear more about that later.
Okay, thank you. Justin, you got anything? Nothing. Kristen? Carl, you got anything?
Well, I have my tri-state report if you want to hear it.
We do.
Are you sure?
Well, yeah.
Well, we had a meeting Tuesday and Wednesday. Some of the things that came up, there is probably going to be a proposed bylaw amendment at the annual meeting, which is going to take place August 4th, 5th, and 6th as of right now. They are going to revisit the 50% level that was increased to 65 at the special meeting. And there's going to be probably some more information on a new approach. Jeff Wadsworth at Poudre Valley reassessed that and has some issues about the revenue brought in to Tri-State if they go to the 50% level, and in regards to a board seat. So that's coming up. So, and they want to the 200 member level that they agree to. They want to modify that to limit members to 10 non-utility. So that's all coming up, and there'll be more on that in the future. Dwayne gave his report, and there's been a refinement in Tri-State's loss during the storm period, and it went up to 12 million from 10 million from the Texas storm, but there'll be no rate increase or anything like that. He reported that XL co-ops, which is Holy Cross and Yampa, and I think Grand Valley, they are probably going to be raising rates because of the loss that XL endured. We joined Cal ISO EIM for the New Mexico area, and I think Mark sent out emails to everybody on that. We pulled out of the XL transmission project, which I think emails have been sent out on that also, because there's XL wanted us in there for PR purposes, but then when it got down to the nitty-gritty, they wanted more than we thought was appropriate and could make workable. Reg Rudolph proposed a scenario where instead of a buyout number, there would be a buy-in number, and that concept is still being worked on. I think it's being worked on by the technical committee from the co-op CEOs, and Mark may have some more information on that. I don't know. Tri-State is looking to do an assessment of the loads that can be controlled, since that has never happened in their territory before. So they're trying to aggregate the controllable loads from all the member systems and possibly submit that as a generation project into an RTO that we hope to join. Loads and resources update. Insurance rates for renewable projects because of the issues in Texas and hailstorms on solar projects and whatnot are going up as much as 400%. Tri-State has PPAs, and so right now we don't own any of the projects, and so the owner is liable for those for that insurance increase. So in the future, I'm sure the price of solar and wind is probably going to increase somewhat because of that issue of insurance. They mentioned that the weather event cost ERCOT $16 billion. Winterization of the wind turbines is one of the issues that was brought up, and Tri-State has winterization on most of the projects that we have, but we have not ever included it into RFP, and they will be in the future. Member sales were down last month 5.3%. Non-member sales were up 67%. Then we went into executive session, and one of the issues I brought up earlier about the possibility of no allocations is probably going to come up next month, and so I don't have much more to report on that. The Escalante Power Plant location, we have had an offer from New Point Gas and Brooks Energy to buy that plant and that site to develop a hydrogen power plant. So we'll see how that works out. And also it was brought up that New Point Gas, and I don't know, I'm not familiar with it, but they have holdings here in North Park. And so I guess there might be a possibility of something coming this way in the future if they can make that work. So that's all I have, except the board did authorize Dwayne to sign papers to buy out the Wampa portion of LRS. And I know there's going to be some pushback about buying into a coal plant, but the value there to Tri-State, more so than the generation of electricity by coal, is the transmission portion. So Basin has the first right of refusal because they are the largest owners of LRS. And in the past, they have not wanted to increase theirs. So we'll see what happens in that regard. So that's all I have, unless there's questions.
Laramie a little bit, like how much more is Tri-State buying into Laramie, and what are the transmission benefits?
I didn't understand you.
I'll ask it. How many megawatts of Laramie River is Tri-State buying, and which units? Which unit is it in? And then what is the associated transmission portion?
Well, the transmission is the most valuable part, and it goes across what they call the Tote 3 line, which is an imaginary line about starts in Wyoming and goes across Colorado and into Nebraska. And we have limitations on what we can bring across that line, and this would increase the capabilities of shipping power south. And the biggest advantage, if there is wind generation put into built in Wyoming, that we would have the ability to ship it south to the Front Range and farther on. So that is the transmission portion. I can't tell you what unit that Wampa has their power in at LRS, but it's basically their allocation is 23 megawatts.
Carl, I had one more question. I tuned in for a small portion of the meeting yesterday, and I heard something about NRECA and Tri-State having a disagreement over trying to get some federal help with stranded assets. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, to my knowledge, it just came up. They didn't expand too much, but Jim Matheson from NRECA called Dwayne and was kind of upset about what the tri-state lobbyists are pushing on the federal level to get legislation to help with stranded coal assets, basically, that are retired early. NRECA has resolutions that don't jive with tri-state's objectives, and Jim thought there was a conflict there. So he called Dwayne at Tri-State and asked him to back off their lobbying of senators to help with the stranded assets, and they are expecting possibly some of this infrastructure money that Biden is proposing to maybe go to that. And so there's like I said, a conflict as of right now between NRECA and Tri-State about the resolutions that NRECA is proposing, and Dick may know more about that since he's on the resolutions committee.
Well, the 2 cents that I'll add, for my job, I had to review the infrastructure bill, and it sounds like they're putting forward $10 billion to help co-ops make the transition from coal to more renewable assets. So it seems to me that Tri-State is actually doing the right thing and trying to put themselves forward as, prime candidate to receive some of those funds, which if they do, could really benefit all Tri-State's members, us included. And it troubles me that NRECA would be trying to interfere with that. So hopefully, did the Tri-State board authorize Dwayne to, continue or to try and reach some agreement with NRECA?
I think the Tri-State board is on board to go ahead with what we are doing right now, and hopefully that a compromise or something can come about with NRECA. And I'm not really familiar with the actual resolution that NRECA is proposing, but I agree with you. I think that that Tri-State is on the right track, and getting some of that infrastructure money possibly to help Tri-State and help the communities that are impacted is very important. So I'm not in favor of NRECA sticking their nose into that, but that's my opinion.
Thanks, Carl.
Dick, did you have anything? You're muted.
Western United is meeting the end of the month and a budget meeting on the 14th for their new budget. Their year starts in July, and I'll have a report next month on what's going on.
Hey, thanks. From CRA, I think I've been sending you guys the bills and the updates. Unfortunate, the wildfire bill had to be killed. But it was, I guess it would the alternative would have been to have some amendments put in there that we didn't really want to see. So hopefully next year, CRA will keep pursuing that. And Mark sent out some federal stuff too that might be of some help to us as well. The only other thing I wanted to talk about is we have a called meeting at CRA later this month to talk about Senate Bill 200. It's a bill that accelerates Colorado's efforts to achieve carbon reduction goals set in House Bill 19-1261. And I'll just back up to that. If you guys remember that in 19, that bill was passed to reduce greenhouse gases. It codified the state emission goals of 26% by 2025, 50% by 2030, and 90% by 2050. And those are relative to the 2005 baseline levels. So what Senate Bill 200 does is it really accelerates this. It sets that greenhouse gas emission reduction to 95% between 2035 and 2040, and 100% by 2040. The bill requires the Air Commission, the AQCC, to set a per ton fee for greenhouse gas emissions in the state. And those fees, they're estimating would generate about $15 million. They'd go to outreach and engage in the engagement of disadvantaged communities. What else does it does? It directs AQCC to consider the social cost of greenhouse gas emissions, speed up the reductions, directs utilities, including co-ops, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And that's kind of the overview of it. We did have a legislative call, a committee call on it. The legislative committee at CREA recommended that we oppose the bill as written. So it will go to the full board. I think that meeting's on the 16th. And that'll take a 2/3 vote to decide which way CREA wants to take a position on that. My feeling is to oppose the bill as well. You know, we have 1261 already on the books that we're on track to comply with. Senate Bill 200 really creates a linear path, and that's tough to do for, like, say, Tri-State, because when they retire a coal plant, that's a big chunk, but you know, that chunk doesn't happen until down the road. It's not just a flat line. And I guess I'd have a real hard time, accepting that bill as well. If, that's a big reach in my mind, and I hope we get there. But as far as reliability goes at this point in time, I just don't know. Does anybody else have any?
Well, one thing that came up in the CEO call is on the linear piece of it, that if it would require co-ops to file potentially a renewable energy plan. And if you miss a goal, then you become subject to the AQCC. I wouldn't necessarily say regulation, but you're fall under them. So because it's linear, if you don't do everything in the time that you said that you would, then it's a problem. And that was part of what the CEOs that were discussing it had an issue with.
Are the targets established for co-ops under this?
I'm sorry.
I didn't hear.
What are the targets established for co-ops under this? Because, Tri-State's already committed to 80% by 2030. So
Correct.
as long as it's in line with that, I don't see why we would need to oppose it.
Well, it really tightens those timelines up, right? 95% between 2035 and 2040, and 100% by 2040. Those timelines are different.
So beyond 80%. Jeff, I appreciate your position here, but I also, I have to acknowledge that we just signed some contractual agreements with our members, including the town of Fraser, that say that this co-op is going to be committing to actively pursuing more clean and renewable energy. And I think it would be a little bit difficult to have the co-op officially coming out against this plan and still hold true to those commitments that we've made to our members. I would advocate for, if not support, at least neutrality.
So which
I guess I would argue
contracts are
too
you
that
referring to, Kristen?
The franchise agreement with the town of Fraser.
The language that's in there, they wanted some, what I would say is fairly restrictive language. and we change the language that we will pursue renewable energy. They wanted certain requirements. So, and we are pursuing renewable energy with community solar, with the Electrify Everything program. So I don't see that it would necessarily be inconsistent with that agreement that we signed with Fraser. I believe I actually had been the one who helped to come up with the language that we inserted in the agreement. So I don't know if he has any comment or if he even remembers the agreement that we signed.
Who's he?
You said you were talking to me, right, Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember it. I don't remember the exact language. And I wouldn't want to talk about that in open session. You all can. I just wouldn't want to give legal advice.
And what I will say is that the initial language that was in there took up about 1.5 pages of the agreement. What we came to agreement on was a paragraph.
So what are the linear requirements? You guys keep expressing concern about the linear requirements. So is it the post 2030 requirements for co-ops?
No, I'm not sure I really understand that portion of it, Kristen. But I know that Senate Bill 1261 just sets an overall emission reduction target, but Senate Bill 200 sets targets for every sector.
Yeah,
Transportation, building, and so it calls out those at certain points in time. I don't know if that answers your question.
200 was that it didn't go any further than what the utilities have already committed to themselves, so that 80% by 2030. Now, if that's truly not the case for co-ops, I could see some justification for pushing back on that a little bit or asking for flexibility. But if all this is doing is codifying what Tri-State and Excel and others have committed to, I don't see why we would, just as a knee-jerk reaction, come out against that. I would appreciate, maybe if you could share some of CREA's analysis of the bill.
I think I have it, and I'm not sure I sent it out to you, but I'll resend it. I have Tim Coleman's brief on it, but I thought I sent it, but I will. I'll send it back out to you.
So question again, what's the timeline on this, Jeff, that it's your next CREA board meeting that you think you're going to have a vote as to whether to support, oppose, neutral, and then any of those, if CREA doesn't meet that 65% level, then they don't weigh in?
So the first question, I think it's a called meeting, Liz, and I think it's the 16th of this month.
Okay.
And so any position that we take on and vote on, it has to pass the board by a 2/3 majority.
Okay.
Does that answer that?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not that familiar with this. I'm not familiar with it at all, so I'm not really sure. I need to learn more about it, but it does bring up the fact that the Wyoming legislature and governor just passed another bill, and I wonder, as the states are doing different things, how it's all going to play out. If we're buying electricity from Wyoming, Colorado's trying to say, hey, we want to tax greenhouse gas emissions in some sort of state plan. The generation moves outside of Colorado, but the generation sources are still the same. That creates a whole jurisdictional question, which could fall to FERC. But FERC is saying, right now, sort of states have the ability to control their energy portfolios. That's a state's right, but yet it's interstate commerce. I'm curious. I mean, I have to look at the bill, but I'm curious how it deals with those types of issues. Like you, I'm concerned about, definitely what's gone on in Texas was a real, reliability is really important, and thinking through a system is really important, and encouraging investment in reliability is really important. On the other hand, more extreme weather is going to challenge our ability to have a resilient system. And we need to get on top of greenhouse gas emissions. They've doubled since pre-industrial levels. We're having more extreme events. Now we got to do something. So that's my take. I don't know the specifics enough on this bill to have an
I'm looking
opinion.
at it right now, and what it says in the summary is it directs wholesale G&Ts to file a plan to achieve 80% greenhouse gas reduction by 2030 compared to 2005 levels. And if that plan is not filed, so if a G&T blows it off, then they have to submit a plan for achieving 90% by 2030 compared to 2005 levels. So that's like no, we're serious. You got to actually file a plan to get there, which it sounds like Tri-State already has. And then I can see this is probably the bullet that's causing some consternation among others. So it also directs retail, wholesale, and municipal electric utilities and cooperative electric associations to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by 95% between 2035 and 40 and achieve 100% by 2040. So that would be a new requirement on cooperatives to actually have a plan to decarbonize by 2040. So if we were to go to a different G&T, obviously that could be achievable. If Tri-State doesn't have a plan to go 100% by 2040, that becomes difficult for Mountain Parks, assuming that we remain in the Hotel California. So I'll send around the link to everybody too, just so you can see the original.
And I just hopefully sent out the whole thing too with, it has a bill summary on it as well as the link to the bill.
Thanks, Jeff. Do you think CRA would support it if it was amended to specify just the levels that essentially Tri-State has already committed to, the 80% by 2030?
Knowing the board, Kristen, I would say probably not with all the other stuff that's in the bill.
Okay.
So part of the issue, as far as what's in the bill, the fact that the state is trying to just regulate co-ops. I mean, that always seems like just the idea of having anything that applies to us, it would require us to do something is automatically, it's a burden.
Yeah, well, according to the bill summary, it includes co-ops in that greenhouse gas emissions. So, I mean, I don't know how we do that. Say if we're with Tri-State, I mean, Tri-State is the one that's, has to do that, right? So I don't know, that doesn't make sense to me either,
But then you think, someone like Holy Cross, they have ownership of, they're part owners of Comanche, or they were.
Yeah.
Guzman owns it, so they're probably trying to,
That's true.
But I'm still like, okay, so just the synopsis about the G&Ts, is that just the power they sell in Colorado? Is that their entire portfolio? There's some questions that I don't know the answers to. And then how does that work? Tri-State just dedicates their renewable generation just to Colorado. And then, the electrons coming from Laramie River, we're going to say, oh, that stays in Wyoming. It's complicated.
It is.
The only path to compliance on this would be for us to essentially leave Tri-State by 2040, which presumably there would be a lower buyout fee with just 10 years left on the contract as opposed to nearly 30.
Well, we might get a windfall if everybody else buys out before us. You might get that 2.3 billion or whatever.
That's true. Jeff, aside from whether CRA is going to support, do they have any analysis on the likelihood of passage?
I don't know, Kristen, on that. I mean, I don't want to speculate. I mean, I've heard, hey, is this just a messaging bill for one? Is it a message, a shot over the bow for the Air Quality Commission? I don't know. I've heard that and I don't know if this is true, that even the governor might not support it. So, yeah, I don't know. You know, I mean, Tri-State's on trajectory to comply with 1261. This is, really accelerates thing. It's, in my mind, it's yeah. As far as reliability, I have concerns over it.
Jeff, this is Carl.
Yeah.
I support your position, and I support CRA's position. So, as being a director of Mountain Parks, that's my position. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Just to be clear, so CRA hasn't not taken a position on just the legislative committee. That's the recommendation to the full board at this point.
And I would imagine the full board will take your recommendations, and I support that.
Thanks. Anybody else? Okay.
I would like to put one thing forward, Jeff.
Go
that you
ahead.
Consider taking back to CREA. In the event that this may pass, several other states have pioneered a way that utilities can account for up to 15 to 20% of their requirements by working with their members to help them decarbonize. So for example, like that refrigerant thing that I think I texted you about earlier this morning, if you help your grocery stores switch from those very potent climate polluter refrigerants to like a natural refrigerant, you could claim the credit for that. So it goes beyond looking at just the impact of the fossil fuel burning to what can you do with your members to help them decarbonize and meet their commitments. So that's kind of an interesting new thing that's starting to happen out there. But it could be something creative to propose as an alternative compliance pathway that would preserve reliability.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else for open board forum? All right. What time is it? 12:15. We want to take a 45-minute break.
Well, can we do, I think we can do all the new business because we have, I don't believe any of that. And I don't think we need the Mountain Park Services meeting. So
do executive session. Okay.
I would like to propose that we have a services meeting next month. We haven't had one in a while, and I think it behooves us to just have one, even if we're just going over the financials or something. So we don't need it this time, but I think it's been like 4 or 5 months. We should have one.
Good idea, Dick. Anybody, anything else for old business? How about new business? Any new business? Okay, that takes us to the executive session, Mark. Well, we have a 1 o'clock presentation.
Yes.
Okay, and that 1 o'clock presentation will be entirely in executive session?
Yes.
Correct. Okay.
So why don't we move to go into executive session now so that, will that work? I move to go into executive session to receive confidential business information from Slopeside to discuss ongoing negotiations, contracts, anything else?
Cyber.
Employee housing.
Employee housing.
Policy 125.
Policy 125.
And that specific member issue that Mark started to talk about this morning.
Right.
Okay. We got a motion and a second by Dick. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Anybody opposed?